The countdown is officially on for the San Francisco 49ers, and it feels different this time. There are just weeks separating this roster from meaningful football, and the anticipation surrounding this team isn't just about returning to the field. It's about whether this version of the 49ers can re-establish themselves as one of the NFL's true powerhouses. Because make no mistake, everything about this offseason signals urgency, calculated aggression, and a front office that believes the window is still wide open. And that belief will be tested immediately on a global stage. The season won't ease in quietly. It will explode into relevance as the 49ers take on the Los Angeles Rams in Australia at the iconic Melbourne Cricket Ground. This isn't just a game. It's a statement. A divisional clash, overseas, under the spotlight, setting the tone for the entire league. For a team trying to reclaim dominance in the NFC West, there's no better or more intense way to begin. But what makes this upcoming season so fascinating is how dramatically the identity of this team is evolving. This isn't just a reload. It's a recalibration. The front office didn't chase headlines recklessly. Instead, they executed one of the most efficient and calculated free agency periods in the entire NFL. And that starts with one name that changes everything about how defenses must approach this offense. Mike Evans entering this system is not just another veteran addition. It's a philosophical shift. For years, the 49ers thrived on yards after catch, timing routes, and motion-heavy deception. Now, they have a vertical enforcer, a red zone mismatch, a third-down weapon who doesn't need separation to dominate. Even at a reduced version of his peak, Evans forces defenses to play differently. Safeties can't cheat. Corners can't relax. And suddenly, the spacing in Kyle Shanahan's offense becomes far more dangerous. Pair that with Christian Kirk, and now you're looking at a receiving core that blends precision with explosiveness. Kirk thrives in space, understands leverage, and fits seamlessly into Shanahan's timing-based concepts. Together, Evans and Kirk don't just add talent. They add versatility. They expand the playbook. And most importantly, they give the quarterback answers against the types of defensive looks that have stalled this offense in critical moments. But here's where things get complicated. Because while the passing game is evolving, the foundation of this offense has always been the run game. And right now, there are serious questions about whether that foundation is stable enough. The departure of established defensive linemen and the decision to patch the left guard position with uncertain options is a gamble. Robert Jones brings experience, but also inconsistency and health concerns. Behind him, the depth chart is filled with players who either lack starting experience or have already shown limitations under pressure. For a team that relies so heavily on zone blocking, timing, and cohesion, that's not a minor issue. That's a potential breaking point. And it's not just about protection. It's about identity. This offense works best when it can control the line of scrimmage, force defenses into uncomfortable alignments, and dictate tempo. Without a reliable interior presence, everything becomes harder. The play action loses effectiveness. The outside zone runs get disrupted. And suddenly, even the most creative play designs can't overcome fundamental breakdowns. That's why the upcoming draft feels less like an opportunity and more like a necessity. There are prospects available who could immediately stabilize that position, players with size, power, and athleticism capable of transforming the interior line. The question is whether the 49ers will break from their long-standing philosophy and invest meaningful capital into that area. Because history suggests hesitation. And hesitation at a position of need can define a season before it even begins. Now shift to the defensive side, and the tone changes entirely. Because this is where the 49ers may have made their most impactful move. Trading for Osa Odigizua quietly reshapes the entire defensive front. For years, this team has relied heavily on edge pressure, particularly from Nick Bosa. But without consistent interior disruption, opposing quarterbacks have been able to step up, extend plays, and neutralize that edge threat. Odigizua changes that equation. He brings penetration. He brings collapse. He forces quarterbacks off their spot before routes can fully develop. And when you combine that with a healthy Bosa and the potential return to form of key defenders, this front suddenly looks dangerous again. It also allows role players to return to more natural positions. Rotational pieces can rotate instead of overextending. Young players can develop without being forced into high-leverage situations. and the entire defensive structure becomes more balanced, more unpredictable, and more sustainable over the course of a long season. Now imagine adding another elite presence to that mix. Because while it may sound like off-season speculation, the idea of Myles Garrett in a 49ers uniform isn't as far-fetched as it once seemed. A restructured contract in Cleveland opens the door, even if just slightly. And for a team that has never been afraid to make bold moves, the possibility exists. Adding Garrett would fundamentally alter the trajectory of this franchise. It wouldn't just make them contenders. It would make them overwhelming favorites. The combination of Garrett, Bosa, and Odigizua would create one of the most dominant defensive fronts in modern NFL history. It would mask weaknesses. It would elevate the secondary. And it would give this team a margin for error that very few franchises ever possess. But even without that blockbuster move, the 49ers have already positioned themselves among the most improved teams in the league. Analysts across the board have recognized the efficiency of their approach. Smart contracts, minimal long-term risk, maximum short-term impact. This is how you build a contender in today's NFL. And yet, there are still lingering questions. The secondary isn't as proven as it once was. The linebacker group depends heavily on health and consistency. And the offense, despite its upgrades, still hinges on whether it can rediscover its physical dominance in the run game. This is where you come in. If you're following this team, if you believe in what they're building, now is the moment to stay locked in. Because what happens next will define everything. Hit that subscribe button and stay with us as we break down every move, every development, and every step of this journey toward what could be a defining season for the 49ers. Looking ahead, the strategy becomes even more intriguing. The draft will address some needs, but history tells us this front office doesn't stop there. Post-draft moves are coming. Whether it's adding a veteran edge rusher to solidify the rotation, making a calculated trade for a proven safety, or finding depth at running back, this roster is not finished. And that's what makes this team so dangerous. They're not static. They're evolving. They're adapting. And they're doing it with a clear understanding of where they stand in the NFC hierarchy. Because when you zoom out and look at the conference, the path is there. The competition is strong, but flawed. The Rams are improving. The Seahawks are retooling. Other NFC contenders have their own uncertainties. And right in the middle of it all are the 49ers, quietly building one of the most balanced and strategically sound rosters in the league. This isn't the same team from 2023. It doesn't have to be. It just has to be better where it matters most. More efficient on offense. More disruptive on defense. More resilient when adversity hits. And if those pieces fall into place, this season won't just be about returning to contention. It will be about finishing the job. So as the clock ticks down and the anticipation builds, one thing is clear. The 49ers are not waiting for the future. They are chasing it right now. And everything about this offseason suggests they believe they're closer than ever. If you're ready to follow every twist, every breakout performance, and every defining moment of this season, make sure you're subscribed and don't miss what's coming next. Because this journey is just getting started, and it has all the makings of something unforgettable.